Hello everybody and welcome back, where today we're going to be talking through some VR games that I'm very excited for the rest of 2025. We've had a great year so far, especially on PSVR2, which if you didn't know is the main platform for this channel, but there are some VR games on this list that are for other platforms, including PSVR2 and one excluding PSVR2 for now. And I think the latter half of this year has the potential to be an absolute banger, and that's only from the games that we know are coming out, whereas there could be so many unannounced that we don't know about. Before we get into it, only 25% you are subscribed, so please feel free to do so if you'd like to support the channel, and thanks to our patrons and members for keeping this channel going day after day and week after week. With that being said, let's go through some of the games that I'm excited for the rest of this year. One of the most no-brainer choices for me is The Midnight Walk. The Midnight Walk is a claymation-style VR and flat-screen hybrid game, which, in my opinion, is the way forward and the future for PSVR2, at least for now, for these styles of games, that has you try and escort a candle through a very horrendous world, keeping the flame alight and protecting it against the horrors of the world you find yourself in. This takes full advantage of PSVR2 features, and I have been trying to get in contact with Fast Travel and Moonhood Games to see whether a review key is going out soon or not, as we are less than a month away from its launch. Whether horror is your genre of choice, for me it definitely isn't. I would still consider The Midnight Walk because visually it just looks like it's going to be an absolute blast. Another game that I'm cautiously optimistic about, but I think could be a great time, especially considering the nostalgia behind it for me, is Slender the Arrival VR. This is still slated for next month, I believe, and the last trailer did look a little bit rough around the edges, but we're not sure what platform this was actually shot on, so it could look a lot better outside of standalone, but it is coming to all platforms, I believe, and essentially takes Slender the Arrival and revamps it with VR interactions and puts you right in the midst of the action. Slender was a big part of my childhood, again, in terms of that creepypasta era, and I never actually played through Slender the Arrival, so I'm very excited to get hands-on with this one. For PC VR and PSVR2 players, Aces of Thunder is finally getting a bit more traction behind it, and this is going to be my favourite release, very possibly, of 2025. Tied up there with Hitman, maybe. I've been looking for a flight simulator on PSVR2 for a very long time, one that is realistic looking and feels proper in terms of handling, and although it's been delayed for about 2 years, it looks like it's going to be coming sometime this year. Creators have just gone hands-on with it, have had incredibly positive reactions to the game, despite it being maybe a couple more months up from launch, but I'm really excited to take to the skies in this World War I and World War II dogfighting game by Gaijin. Another one that is in the cautiously optimistic pile for me is Zombie Army VR. Now, I've played Zombie Army in the flat, it's an extension of the Sniper Elite franchise, and Zombie Army VR promises to bring all that gameplay to virtual reality, and has also previously been hit by a delay. So hopefully when it comes out, it's very polished. It has co-op, which is always a very big boost to VR games. I played some VR games that are absolutely dreadfully boring in solo, but incredible experiences in co-op, so it's very possible that Zombie Army VR fits into that category, but hopefully overall, solo or co-op, it turns out to be a very good game. Despite zombie games being one of the most saturated genres in all of VR, a mainstay IP that is loved in the flat screen, such as Zombie Army, is definitely a good thing to have in the VR space. I was a big fan as well of Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted. I've only ever played one. It was a great time, and especially to put people on VR for the first time who loved horror games. It's a great party game for social nights, but a more linear and narrative FNAF game is coming to PSVR2 with Secret of the Mimic. Now, it seems like the VR component of this game is coming later, but the game does launch in June, so hopefully we'll get some reactions about how the overall quality of it is, and then we'll get the VR component a little bit later on down the line. Steel Wool have always brought their A-game to their VR ports. Help Wanted 1 and 2 are incredibly sharp looking and utilise a lot of features on all platforms that they're on, so hopefully Secret of the Mimic, when it does eventually come out with its VR component, is up to a similar standard and performs a little bit better than their previous title, Security Breach. Before we go any further, you know what time it is. It's sponsor time, but it's not any usual sponsor. It's VRROCK. These guys are pretty much the only sponsor I consistently take on the channel. They make VR prescription lenses for PSVR2, Quest, Pico, you name it, they do it. I use them on my PSVR2 and I really like them. They do magnetic and non-magnetic options if you need to swap out quickly. They do prescription and non-prescription options, whether you need glasses or just want protection. I'm in the latter half, I don't need glasses, but I don't want to scratch my PSVR2 lenses, so the VRROCK lenses come in very handy, and they do anti-glare and anti-blue light filters. If you'd like to check them out, the link is in the description below with my discount code, which does directly support the channel if you do feel like using it. Thanks to VRROCK for being the paid partner of today's video. Again, I've backed them for years, I like their products, and I use them myself. With that being said, let's get back to the list. A game that Quest users will be getting hands-on with earlier than PSVR2 is Ghost Town. This is by Fireproof Games. They've created the Room VR before to raving reviews, and they're also based here in the UK in Guildford, so big up them. Ghost Town essentially puts you in the shoes of Edith Penrose, a ghost hunter who has to go looking for her missing brother while exorcising spirits and hunting ghosts throughout 1980s London. As I said, Meta is getting this one first on April 24th, whereas Steam VR and PSVR2 are getting it later on down the line. So us PSVR2 users will be able to see whether or not the game is any good, and then decide if we want to pick it up when it does come to the platform. Staggered releases like this can be frustrating for some, but also is a very good sign when a studio wants to take their time and make sure the game is quality in terms of a port. I'm also really excited for Roboquest VR. I never knew anything about Roboquest before the VR trailer hit our screens a little while ago at the first ever VR game showcase, and Flat to VR are all gas no brakes for their titles, but this is the one that I'm probably most excited for this year. Again, we don't have a release date for Postal 2 or Flat Out VR, those two would probably be a little bit higher than Roboquest for me, but for confirmed 2025, Roboquest is probably the game that I'm most excited for from their lineup. As saturated as the market is for roguelikes, I do really like them, but Roboquest has co-op, it's really fast paced, and I think will look vibrant and stunning in all headsets that it's brought to. And although I said Roboquest was my most anticipated Flat to VR title of this year, one that is probably tied with it is Flat to VR's Out of Sight. Now, Out of Sight is a very Little Nightmares-esque game. I don't want to draw direct comparisons because it feels like I'm putting down Out of Sight, because it is its own thing in many different ways. I think it's a second-person VR game, which is maybe the first of its kind, but it is very Little Nightmares-esque. Even when the trailer dropped, I thought it was for Little Nightmares VR port, which made me very excited since Little Nightmares is my favourite horror game of all time. But Out of Sight VR is coming on May 22nd. This is only the Steam version of the game though, as it coincides with the flat release on Steam, whereas PSVR2 and Quest will follow later this year. Very excited for this. Hopefully the Steam VR version is top quality and we'll get a great port later on. But Flat to VR have yet to fail us, so I have very high hopes. Before we get to my final choice on this list, I do want to give a shout out to Wanderer the Fragments of Fate, because I personally do not class this game as released at this point. In terms of my coverage on the channel, I've done a first impressions and that was pretty much it, because I didn't want to review it until it was fixed, and I'm excited for the game to be fixed and to be able to jump in and play it in the state that it should have launched in. So I'm counting this one in future releases for 2025. In my mind, this one isn't fully out yet because I just don't want to dive into it until it's fixed. So I am excited for Wanderer to be patched up and be game ready for all of us later on this year. And finally, a game that is first releasing on Quest and Steam later on this year, we have Forefront. By the Breaches developers, this is Battlefield in VR, and if you hear that and know me, you'll know that's a dream of mine for a very long time to have a proper Battlefield fully fledged game in virtual reality, and it seems this is the one. We have class choices, tons of vehicles, weapons, destruction, multiple modes and multiple massive maps, and large 16v16 battles. This is the closest thing we're going to get to Battlefield VR until EA decide to do something official, maybe in 25 years time, so I'm going to take it. Breaches is a fantastic game, but to be honest, if this turns out to be a success, Forefront will be probably my main VR FPS. I'm hoping it comes to PSVR 2 later, maybe next year, early next year would be great, but I'm assuming when it leaves early access it will, so unsure about a timescale on that. It'll probably follow a similar timescale to Breaches, but we'll have to wait and see. Until then, I'll either pick up a Meta headset or I'll get it on Steam VR because Forefront is going to be awesome. Anyway, what are you all excited for? Please do let me know. Are you hoping for some surprise announcements? Maybe Ace Combat 8, maybe Resident Evil 9? We'll just have to wait and see. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.